Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the camera then. So the camera itself is basically this back half. Everything from like here forward is lens. So this is all part of the lens. And you have, I mean, this may seem a little confusing, but basically you have two controls here. You have a zoom control, which is not turned on. This is sort of a manual zoom. And right now it's actually turned off. I can turn it on in a sec. And then over here you have focus control. So there's a focus ring and a zoom ring. You can also use, there's this little toggle on this side. There's a toggle up here. You can use those, like, you can't see it. Let me zoom out. Let me get this full thing in view here. There we go. So if I use this toggle over here, you can see that camera. Now that's zooming in and out on, we'll go focus on the wall. If you wanted to switch your zoom to a manual zoom, which I have it set right now on what's called servo. Right under here, you see this zoom servo manual, that's a switch. It's right under the front of the camera. All you got to do is switch this to manual, and then let's see if I can get this to work now. Zoom back out. So then what you have is now this ring actually turns, and this is actually, I prefer this. This is a little easier to control, because this basically goes, no, I just switched it. So it's either one or the other. You can't have both. So it's toggle, which is a little hard to control the speed. You can kind of do it, but it can get a little jerky. But this also takes practice to get this nice and smooth. I prefer this, especially for the small stuff. This is our focus ring. It's set to autofocus right now, so I'm going to switch it to manual. And then you can kind of see how that goes out of focus as I turn the ring. That's pretty straightforward, right? Turn the ring, it goes in focus. Turn the other way, it goes the other direction. And when I turn on focus assist, that'll really kind of help with, like, you can kind of see how the focus rolls across the bag a little bit there. See, as I'm moving this back and forth, that focus kind of rolls from one end to the other. That's because my range of focus is fairly narrow, and so only part of that bag is actually in really clear focus at one time. That's why focus is so tricky, because focus generally is a very narrow range, and if you're not super precise with it, I can leave it on auto, and it'll do its best guess. Not always the safest thing to do, though. And then the next thing we have, of course, is focus, which you can set between auto or manual. And then there's a temporary, if you push it down, it doesn't stay, but you can temporarily set it to infinite focus, which is sort of a rolling, it's like a, it's kind of weird, I don't use that either. Probably you're going to leave it on manual if you're doing stuff for the modules. If you're doing interviews, you might leave it on auto, because they might move back and forth, and you don't want to have to be sitting there moving the thing back and forth to follow them. Auto will focus, will track them. If you're doing something like rack focus or focusing on one particular object in foreground or background focus, you have to use manual focus for that. So we're going to leave it. Then there's also this button down here, which is basically a temporarily, I'm zoomed in, if I'm way out of focus, I can just push that. Here we go. It will temporarily, and you can see right there on the screen it says MF. It stands for manual focus. So I can switch it now. It stands for AF. So focus 2 to 4 meters. It kind of gives you a range of where your focus is. And it did it probably when I switched. But this is sort of a temporary autofocus. It temporarily changes it to auto. You have to hold it down, and then you can let it off, and it'll stay on manual, but it'll be focused on whatever it focuses on.